Nemesis is one of the most iconic things that come out of the Resident Evil series. This bioweapon brought to Raccoon City by the lovely folks at Umbrella Corporation was the inescapable, nigh unstoppable antagonist of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, originally released for the PlayStation in 1999. Nemesis is pretty straightforward in his goal: kill all surviving members of STARS, and unfortunately for one Jill Valentine, that puts her right in the crosshairs of that oversized rocket launcher. Jill was eventually able to use a railgun and a trusty Magnum to finally put Nemesis down for good, all while delivering one of the most badass lines in the entire series.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
Nemesis ended up becoming one of the most instantly recognizable elements of the series, even appearing in the 2004 film Resident Evil Apocalypse. The Resident Evil movies ain't great, but they're fun and I'll fight any motivator that disagrees with me. Except Afterlife, we don't talk about Afterlife. Insofar as the Versus series, Nemesis didn't actually show up until 2011's Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 as one of the new roster additions. A Resident Evil monster had been considered for the Versus games before, with Ryota Nitsuma, producer of both Tatsunoko vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 3, stating that the Tyrant from Resident Evil 1 was initially considered for Tatsunoko vs. Capcom before deeming it to clash too much with the game's tone. When it came time to make roster picks for Marvel vs. Capcom 3's initial release, the Tyrant was considered yet again, alongside Nemesis as well. However, the development team had concerns about representing them faithfully while working below an M rating, so neither of them made the initial release. Clearly though, they saw potential in Nemesis and managed to come up with a workable moveset for him in the end. So, without further ado, let's dive into things. Nemesis is what we'd call a big body character in fighting games. A good chunk of his attacks and even one of his hyper combos consists of using armored frames of animation and just barreling through attacks. It's pretty satisfying. That said, this also means Nemesis is a relatively uncomplicated character. He's not a projectile monster like Chris, a rushdown focused character like Wesker, or anywhere near as complex to use as Jill. He has a projectile, a command grab, a few armored moves, a command normal that covers a lot of screen space, but that's all he really needs to feel like Nemesis, honestly. Nemesis' theme here is a faster-paced remix of Unstoppable Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. This was the theme that played during the battle against him at the Clock Tower, one of the original game's most iconic moments in my book. Here's the Marvel 3 remix. And here's the original version. Now, Nemesis' moveset is pretty straightforward and full of attacks you'd expect someone as big as him to have, but a surprising amount of his attacks are actually taken straight from some of his encounters in RE3. His attacks in RE3 also have official names, as revealed by the Biohazard 3 Last Escape official guide released for the game in Japan. I'll still be using the official Marvel 3 names for the new interpretations of the attacks, but I'll note the original name of which attack they correspond to. Shout out to the Resident Evil wiki, by the way, which provided translations of every attack listed in the guidebook, as well as images of the cover art as well. They were a big help in making this analysis possible. To start, Nemesis has a command normal named Deadly Reach. He fires out some tentacles from his hand that reach close to full screen and deal multiple hits. He can do this in the air as well. He also has an aerial variant that can be aimed downwards. This is a great tool for approaching. His first special move is Clothesline Rocket. This one is based off of his right-left punch attack in RE3. Light is a simple wall bounce punch, medium adds a rocket follow-up, and heavy follows up with a rocket angled upwards. Speaking of, his next special move is Rocket Launcher, which is also named as such in RE3. It is pretty self-explanatory after all. Doing a Dragon Punch motion instead of a quarter circle forward has Nemesis do an anti-air rocket aimed diagonally upwards instead, like the heavy version of Clothesline Rocket. Launcher Slam is derived from the second variation of his RE3 right-left punch, where he punches using the same arm as the rocket launcher. Light hits them into the air, medium is a ground bounce, and heavy is a wall bounce. Tentacle Slam is his command grab. This one specifically comes from Nemesis' second form, where the attack was originally called Slammed. The medium and heavy version of this go at a 45-degree angle and straight upwards, respectively. Bioweapon Assault is his first hyper combo. He fires 3 rockets before hopping up and landing on the opponent pretty brutally. Biohazard Rush is his second hyper combo. He does a series of punches before doing one last crashing strike. This one is fun because while he can take damage during it, he can armor through nearly everything when doing this move. His level 3 is Fatal Mutation. This is a grab super where he transforms into his final form from Resident Evil 3 and seemingly devours the opponent. This one comes out fast, but leaves him very vulnerable if it whiffs. Nemesis' 3 assists are as follows: Clothesline Rocket, Launcher Slam, and Rocket Launcher. Let's talk about Nemesis' alternate colors. Obviously, there's his original color. His second color is meant to look like dried blood, and specifically the type you see on the Executioner enemies from Resident Evil 5. Color 3 is a dark green scheme meant to evoke Marvel's Man-Thing. Color 4 is a shade of blue meant to evoke the unfortunate zombies of the Raccoon City Police Department. Color 5 is a pinkish color meant to apparently look like raw meat. Yeah. Moving on. Color 6 is an all-white outfit meant to make Nemesis look like a freakish nurse. Unsurprisingly, it's one of the more popular colors for him. And finally, his alternate costume is his second form from Resident Evil 3, meaning all 3 of his forms from RE3 are represented in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 in some form. Pretty neat. Nemesis isn't especially chatty, but he does have something to say to 2 people in particular.
Nemesis has been spotted.
And here's his ending. Out of all the characters from Marvel 3 to make it into Infinite, Nemesis has some of the fewest changes, with most of them being changes to inputs to account for the 2 punches, 2 kicks setup. He does have 1 or 2 new tricks though. Nemesis' theme is once again an arrangement of Unstoppable Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. This remix actually sounds closer to the original theme, and is one of the few remixes in Infinite I'd say is actually legitimately good. His clothesline rocket is now quarter circle forward and punch, with the heavy version firing a rocket straight forward instead of angled upwards. Launcher slam is quarter circle back and punch, with his heavy variant being the ground bounce version. Rocket launcher is now quarter circle forward and any kick. Additionally, he can now reload and fire another follow-up rocket if you press any kick after firing the first one. Additionally, you can also hold the button to delay the rocket. Doing this in the air actually keeps him suspended there for a short amount of time. Tentacle slam is half circle back and kick. Nemesis retains the variant of this that goes at a 45-degree angle for the heavy version. Deadly Reach actually seems to hit even closer to full screen now, and Nemesis also retains the downward angled version when done in the air. Biohazard Rush is now a quarter circle forward in 2 punches, though unfortunately it's lost its armor. Understandably so though, considering it'd probably be really overpowered in conjunction with Active Switch. Bioweapon Assault is quarter circle forward in 2 kicks, and is more or less the same as Marvel 3. Fatal Mutation is now quarter circle back in 2 punches, and it has one new property over Marvel 3. After successfully landing this attack, the opponent will be poisoned, not unlike the status effect Hawkeye can inflict with his poison arrows, and they'll take some additional passive damage before it wears off. It bears mentioning that Nemesis' final form in Resident Evil 3 also spat acid that could poison Jill, so it's possible that this was a reference to that potential status effect as well. Nemesis retains 4 of his colors from Marvel 3. His DLC costume has him swap his normal outfit for that of Mr. X's trench coat from Resident Evil 2. Here's the alternate colors for that. Once again, Nemesis doesn't really have much to say to anybody in the game, except for Chris.
We'll survive this battle if we look out for each other.
So, that's everything for Nemesis. This was honestly a shorter analysis than I thought it'd be, but that's because Nemesis was designed as an easy, to-the-point character. And I think that actually pairs well with him in general. Nemesis is single-minded in his one and only goal, and his moveset and interactions reflect that. I think personally, I'd say I enjoy the Marvel 3 incarnation more, if only because it's really fun to super armor through pretty much every attack anyone can throw at him. He does have a small role in Infinite Story Mode as well, but I think I'll dedicate an entire video to everything surrounding that misfire. If there's any suggestions, criticisms, or things you'd like to see me try, please don't hesitate to drop a comment. Until next time, everyone take care, and I'll see you on the next episode of Capcom vs. Legacy. Speaking of that next episode,